And good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and I am extraordinarily happy you're here today. I'm happy you're out and about. I love Thursdays. I think Thursdays are my favorite day of the week. You know, everyone looks forward to Friday, and they've got Friday off or whatever it is they look for, like TGIF. I personally love Thursdays. They seem to be a very productive, very fun day that you can actually get a lot done. It's almost like a re-Monday with a little surge of energy to knock some stuff out. So I'm super glad you're here today. I'm super glad I'm here today. And we're going to be covering sales today. So as promised, we've been covering MSPBA. And it's a very practical look at how you can actually create your systems to get started quickly. So if you're a new entrepreneur, a new coach, a new trainer, and you just want to get started quickly, this is not advanced. You might need more advanced strategies. We might need to do a coaching for that. But a lot of you guys get hung up on how do I create my systems and how do I get going quickly, that I could just delegate these things. So we covered that a few days ago with MSPBA and the overview of MSPBA. Yesterday, we covered a lot. It was a very long training on marketing. Today, we're going to cover sales. But before any of that crazy mess, who needs that? We're actually going to be doing other news this morning that's super interesting. I find it super interesting that bees are wielding tools. And then a hidden masterpiece painting in an urban development office. We're going to cover that. But you know what we're going to cover before anything, my beautiful lovelies? Our morning cup of gratitude. I love having coffee with you first thing in the morning to cover other news and goals and gratitude. So let's get this thing. Here we go. Let's get this thing going. Let's do this. The one thing I'm absolutely grateful for this morning, is your success stories. I had two awesome, very uplifting encounters yesterday of two people that have both been past coaching clients. One had been a one-off coaching client. The other was a coaching client that's been floating around. So shout out to you, Katie Yates, for stopping by for coffee. Yesterday, we were at our local coffee shop, and we had been talking about answering Katie's question about getting organized, but she talked about some other coaching entirely, which we're actually going to cover today in Unsales this morning, about how to actually do Unsales. And she said, your coaching to me on that few months ago has unlocked X, Y, and Z, and it's been phenomenal for our business. That was heartwarming. And then also another friend, Eddie from OmniView, just sat down with me yesterday and caught me up on his business. We had done coaching a little while back, a few years back, and he was just catching me up on the ripple effects of that. It's so stinking heartwarming. And then last but not least, I'm grateful to all you lovely people that stopped by for the podcast with Monet Craner yesterday. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for giving us shouts. Thank you for participating and letting us know that you're staying in touch with what we're trying to do and help ignite lives of explosive significance. So that's what I'm grateful for this morning. So here's to you. I got a big old stain there. We won't do that often. What are you grateful for today? Put it in the comments. Share what you're grateful for. I'd love to hear how you're starting your day with gratitude. Let's go on to other news. Let's do this. So bees are finally wielding tools. You know, I've been predicting for a long time that in our lifetime, we'll see other ape and monkey intelligence go through the roof. And we've already seen them using tools, but I think we're going to have massive breakthroughs in how primates communicate, primates wield tools. I think we're going to see the same thing with dolphins and whales. And I know that sounds crazy, but I believe it. And we're watching this with bees now. So bees have been observed to be finally wielding tools. Bam, right there. And it's been interesting because this is the first time that bees have been observed using non-plant material in their hives. Now, we know that bees, take pollen and use that in the hive and turn it into honey. And that's what we know about bees. So are they wielding tools? Scientists have been debating this for some time. Are those actually tools, my friends? Or are they simply how it eats things and defecates and that sort of thing? I mean, so it's up for debate. But this is the first time that they've actually been observed wielding tools. And what they've observed is that bees have actually been gathering now animal feces. and putting it around the entrance to the hive. And bees are saying that they're using this as a defense mechanism and evolving these defense mechanisms in order to prevent a relative of the murder hornet from eradicating the hive. Now, bees do this other really cool thing, and that is if they get a predator into the hive, they swarm around the predator and vibrate until the heat actually eliminates the enemy, kills the enemy. And it's a very interesting tool that bees have been using for some time. But you can actually see this right here. Boom. Let's post it here. And then let's post it here for you to read at your own convenience later. But if you have a nerd alert like I do on the science of what's going on with bees, there you go. They're wielding tools. They're getting smarter. And we think robots are going to take over. But it would be quite ironic if the robots did not have to contend with the human species in the future, but bees and their intelligence. Here we go. Other news. Did you know you could see northern lights from North Carolina? That is correct. Because of a CME, otherwise known as a corona mass ejection. You don't say that word every day. And I'm so glad I do this show so that I can say things like corona mass ejection. The corona mass ejection was visible last night and should also be visible tonight down to latitudes as south as North Carolina. And the reason being is there's a particular corona mass ejection coming from the sun, basically a sunspot that has massive electromagnetic waves being thrust into the solar system. And people in North Carolina should be able to observe the northern lights from North Carolina. So that's going on, I think, tonight, Thursday night, from roughly 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. So if you're up and around and you're in the North Carolina area, know that you should probably be able to see the northern lights. So if you want to read up on that, here we go. Boom. That's from Fox News, your Fox News source. But don't worry, it's just the weather news. And yeah, so you got that there. And last but not least, for the last 60 years, urban planning, not necessarily the highlight of art critique and art understanding, but the employees of the Brussels Urban Planning Office have thought that there was a print from a Flemish master from 400 years ago. Let's look at that. So basically, art historians have discovered, boom, here you go. Art historians, oh my Lord, boom. Art historians have basically discovered that a Flemish master. Oh, Jessica says, are you kidding me? I should have stayed in North Carolina for another week. You're not joking. You totally should have. And I was even thinking, Jessica, how could we? We've got a lot on our plates, but is there any way Marissa and I could make a last-minute trip to go see the Northern Lights in North Carolina? That would be a little special, I think, but we probably not. I've got a lunch appointment with an old friend, so yes, you should have stayed in North Carolina, but I digress. There's always going to be more of these, and maybe we should all just move to North Carolina because it's so nice there. You heard it here first. So here we go. Art historians have discovered an exceptional, basically the most famous artwork by a Flemish master and the painting is called The Holy Family. And it's by Flemish master, let's see here, Jacques Jordan, and it's been hanging in the Brussels Town Hall. Now, the thing that's phenomenal about this is that they've completely overlooked this because they thought it was just a print, but it is a 400-year-old masterwork. In fact, the most famous masterwork by Jacob Jordan. And so they've discovered it, and they said it's been hanging in this office for 60 years. I wonder how that conversation went. I wonder how many employees it took to turn over in the phone game when you have an employee in urban planning and the new employees come in and say, what's going on? Oh, what's up with this artwork? Oh, never mind that. And they just ignore it. And how many different regimes in the Brussels urban planning department before they finally realized, I wonder if we should assess the value of this painting. How would you like to be that employee? Jessica says, after lunch, get in the car and go. Don't let Marissa hear you. because she would be like down with that. And I know that our list is a mile long right now while we're onboarding. Maybe I could work in the car and I could work with a remote with my hotspot from the car. It would be worth it, I think. And I think if we left after lunch by 1, we could get there by 10 p.m. It's about a 9-hour drive, and maybe we could see the Northern Lights from Waynesville. Thanks for the encouragement, Jessica. So here we go. Our number 2 step in MSPBA, we're going to jump into how to actually build the systems. Now, I promise you something today. Yesterday, I went on for about an hour, and I know that you guys love me, but I don't think you love me that much. You got family, you got loved ones, you got breakfast. The chickens are calling, right? The inbox is calling. So I won't go on. I'm actually going to try to keep this super succinct and super simple, because honestly, if you've seen the MSPBA overview, go back if you haven't, go down my feed in Facebook, down on my feed, or join us in the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group, and we'll be posting these so you can get the overview at your own pace. You don't have to necessarily, drag it out with me here, but for the sake of time and for those who do watch this live, I'm going to actually give you I'm trying to keep it real short on how to do the Google Drive folder structure, what it might look like in Trello, what it might look like in ClickUp, how to actually set appointments in the unsales system, and then actually what to do with the meeting. I contend in this, and I've done a lot of sales workshops, and we should probably do a sales workshop or do these as webinars or lives in the new year to get you guys started quickly with the Spark Recharge system, which is kind of the training and teaching around MSPBA. In our workshops, we've encountered a lot of people, and what we've discovered in asking questions is it's not even the appointment setting that is frightening to people. It's they're insecure on how a good sales appointment should go. And if we can cover what a good sales appointment should be like, it makes actually the appointment setting, it contextualizes the appointment setting so easily that appointment setting and taking the appointments becomes so easy. It becomes not sales. It becomes a conversation where you're learning from their industry. I know that's a teaser right there, so stick with me. So let's take a pause. If you have a friend, a loved one, a coworker who literally, they're absolutely avoiding the real work of sales. If you know someone like that, please do them a favor. Tag them in the comments wherever you're watching this at, YouTube, Facebook, Goals and Gratitude group, the State of the Spark page, or my personal page. Go there and tag them, or share the link with them, or just invite them to the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group, because my heart breaks for people whose business is waning because they're dodging sales. This is the pain point of most all entrepreneurs. So we're going to dive into this now. Let's get this thing going. So first off, let's bring up my other screen here. We're going to start covering that down in the corner. We're going to start covering that in just a quick second. So let's talk about this. So quick overview, MSPBA is marketing, sales, production, bookkeeping, and admin. And this is the process by which people flow through your business. Go back to yesterday's video on a huge overview on kind of how to set up your Google Drive folder. If you're going to do this quick and easy, you can do it quick and easy through Google Drive. I did show you and tease out our Trello board, how you could set up marketing in a Trello board, and then how you could set up marketing in ClickUp, which is the tool we use. This doesn't automate your marketing. Your marketing should not be automated. But there is the one system we covered yesterday that is the least amount of marketing you need to do once every 2 weeks with your Facebook ad. If you want to know how to do a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad, we did those videos and we posted them in the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group. That's kind of summarizing yesterday, and then we covered a ton of other content. So now the client has moved through. They've seen one of your ads every 2 weeks. They might have encountered you at a networking meeting, or they saw one of your pieces of content. We also covered the content funnel. And if you want to learn more about the micro marketing, trademarked by State of the Spark, we have a system called the micro marketing system, and it's how you can basically build your authority, increase your SEO, increase the mind share of the market, and also force you to shape your message. We covered all that yesterday. A client has moved through those, and now you think they might be ready to give them a call and follow up with them or set them up for a sales appointment. That's where we're picking up today. So if that's okay, The first thing I am going to want to show, the first thing I do want to show you is I want to actually show you, boom. I want to actually show you the Google Drive folder that you need to set up. So let's actually show you something here. Boom. So if you have your business, Spark Sites for Us, Jessica Ahead is doing coaching, and she's also doing the body code and the healing code. You could check her deal out there, but all of you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Marketing, sales, production, bookkeeping, and admin. This is actually where you're working for your company. We already covered marketing, but let's look at sales. So sales, I want you to create these folders. 2.02.01 lead, 02.01 comms, 02.03 info sent, 02.04 offer rejected, 02.05 closed, and that's a positive close. Let's cover these real quick. And then after that, I'll actually share with you my unsale system and a meeting outline. We've got those over here, and those are actually how to frame your meetings. We'll get to those in a quick second. In your lead form, you should have a template that suits you. And you should even have it in here labeled template. So if this folder is 02.01, it would be titled 02.01.01 or 00 sales lead template. And every time you get a new client, now, again, there's other systems to set up here, but this is the shortest distance between 2 points. I could show you how to set up a Google form. I could show you how to set up a Google form that when you fill out, it automatically creates this file. That can be done. We've actually used that in the past, but that's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to complicate things. You're trying to simplify things. So create this folder, sales, create these subfolders. If you need to pause this video later, great. Create these 5 folders. And then in your lead folder, there should be something titled template. Title it whatever you want. I recommend for organization's sake 02.01-template. In there's going to be a spot for the client's name, the client's business, the client's email, the client's phone number, the contact information. Should you have a CRM? Yes, you should have a CRM, but now you're complicating it. Do you use HubSpot? Do you use MailChimp? Forget all that. You're trying to get a sale, and you're trying to learn about the client. Simplify this beast. Literally put it into a Google Doc, and when you're on the phone call with them, create this Google Doc. Then, if you know they're a lead and you call out that lead and get them on. Now, the lead here, you fill this out, you probably got leads from business cards. You probably got leads because you met that one person at Lakeland. We have Lakeland Business Leaders, or it's now known as Bridge. You have a Bridge event, and you met them and you did coffee. You might be at a BNI, and you might have been given a lead. Fill it out here no matter what. Now, here's the thing. We covered how to delegate in Google before. Now, I'm only going to cover this one more time, but let's say this is a lead, and let's just call it, come on, let's just call it lead, boom. And let's say you've got the lead name right here. When you finally onboard a virtual assistant to do appointment setting for you, which is super affordable to do, you can highlight the lead's name, open it, tag your virtual assistant who will book and create appointments for you, assign it to them, click assign, and this has now been delegated. It then needs to go on the Google Calendar. We covered that. This is why yesterday's teaching went so long, because I also covered how to delegate. I should have saved that. How to delegate using Google Docs, how to delegate using Trello, how to delegate using ClickUp. I'll cover those in another time, but basically, you know that you're creating this lead here. Well, Grant, if I'm just going to call them, why am I doing this? You're preparing to be able to delegate. So I just created this right here, and it's now assigned to them. It appears in their Gmail inbox, and they're ready to go. So now we've got this lead, and this lead is in our folder. Now, let's say we get the lead on the phone. All you do is double click this and then start taking your call notes. And you actually take all the call notes. They're going to teach you about their business. And I'll tell you what goes on in these call notes, what goes on in these appointments. We'll cover that in a second. But when you get that call, you take the notes. And then what you do is, if this client is then in communications, you then move them to comms. Yes, move it. So it's no longer in leads. It's now in comms. These are people who you're in communication with. So this lead moves through your funnel, moves from one Kanban board, one status to the next, because you treat them differently. Comms means you're doing back and forth. You called and left a voicemail. You've sent them a letter. You've met with them for an unsales appointment. This is where, once you have talked to the person in some way, shape, or form, this is when they're in comms. So let's actually look at the folders real quick. Let's actually look at the folder structure here. They go from a lead to comms when you've talked to them. They go from comms to info sent when that unsales appointment led to, hey, do you mind if I send you a proposal? They move from comms if you've talked to them on the phone and you've said, hey, I'll follow up with a summary of our services. That's when it moves to info sent. So if they've been in comms, let's go in comms. They've been in comms. You've sent them a follow-up email with information. Then you drag them and put them into info sent, and you click move. It's that simple. Oh, I accidentally dragged a folder. We'll look at that later. But the point is that you're moving this lead one step at a time through your process. Now let's look at what Trello looks like for this. So the simplest way to do this is in Google Drive, and you can delegate that to your virtual assistant. And then you can talk about the client. Let's see here. Let's put this folder back where it goes. This folder was in comms. Yes, move the folder. And then in comms, I accidentally moved. Boom. Where's my lead? There's my lead. So you can actually talk with your virtual assistant over here on the side with the comments. You can dialogue about the client. You can capture information. They could delegate it back to you. You could get involved in all sorts of here. Let's see. What other conversation points can we get in here? There we go. So we can have other conversation, follow-ups, clarity, and you can talk to your team this way from this document. And again, every time the next step happens, you need to communicate that and delegate that. And then now we've got them to info sent. And they might go, you know what, this is not for me. You would then drag that to offer rejected. The reason there's a folder for offer rejected and you're not just trashing it is you might circle back in another 6 months. You might debrief with your team what went wrong. Don't trash old leads, even if they flat out rejected your offer. Then if it was offer accepted, you might move it to closed. It doesn't stay in closed often because that same lead file will then eventually move into the production bucket. We'll get into that later. So let's look at Trello. You've got a lead. That lead comes in, John Smith, boom. And hopefully you can customize this, but you're filling out details. And those details begin to fill out and the card grows. You might stick a headshot of that client. You might note where you guys met. You might know their phone number, their business, their lead. And then when you get them on the phone or meet with them for an appointment, they move into comms. So you've got them in comms now. You've met with them for your first coffee as an unsales appointment, or you've sent them, or you got on the phone and discussed things with them. And then your card for them should be filled out in more detail. You could use labels. You can get into that later, organization. But in short, the notes are the most important thing from the call. Boom. Because in those conversations, in the unsales meeting and in the phone call, they will tell you what their pain is. Once you've actually had the conversation and say, hey, could I follow up some of the details from our offerings? Absolutely. Then you send them the email and they move to the info sent column. So you have your process for how often do you follow up when the info has been sent? Do you follow up every 2 days, every 3 days, every 12 hours, every 2 weeks? You need to actually outline in Google Drive how your info sent process goes. What's my follow-up process? So in every single one of these folders, when you're articulating your system, you need to create a new document, which is basically the tutorial and training. It could be the video. Remember when we did the MSPBA overview, we actually told you could record video. But in short, you want to name this, come on, 02.03. Here, let's see here, .00. Follow up system, boom, something like that. There we go. There we go. Follow up system. Then you cover in your bulleted outlines exactly what the steps are. That way, when you onboard and delegate this to a virtual assistant who's doing follow-ups or sending emails for you, they can actually just look right here at the latest and greatest system. It's where you work, so it's easy for you to get into and edit and update on the fly. If you're working from Trello, you can leave notes in here with another card that says how to use this Trello board. I think I've showed you guys our template for the micro marketing project. I've got this card right here, how to use this list, how to use this list. And it actually gives instructions on how to use this list. You can replicate that when you're doing your own sales board. Have how to use this list so that when you delegate it, they know how to use it. That is what this file does in your Google Drive folder. Capture your system. On day 1, send them the follow-up email. On day 2, follow up with a phone call. On day 4, follow up with an email until you get a response from them. That makes sense? I hope so. Let's move on. And then under sales, we have the same thing as a Kanban board. You have other views that we could actually play with, but John Smith is in comms. John Smith is now in InfoSent. There's other functionality in ClickUp that we love that automates. It self-assigns this to certain people. It self-labels it. It will add its own timeline and deadlines automatically that you need to set up in here that can help send you notifications and nudges that can help notify and nudge your virtual assistant. It doesn't really matter to you in the early days, though. That's kind of advanced, and we're just now having the volume of sales and the volume of conversation requiring that. So then, once you set the information, John Smith might flat out reject you. So you would take the lead and move it into offer rejected. Let's move the lead into offer rejected. Yep, offer's absolutely rejected. Or John Smith actually went with you and said yes, and you're going to move them into the closed folder. So in that case, they wouldn't go into offer rejected. They would actually go into offer closed. Some quick points about this. Let's pause. Every folder should have its own training document, and it should be labeled 00. Every folder at every hierarchy. This one has one right here, the unsales process. We'll get into that in a second. But in short, as promised, that is how you set up your Google Drive and folder and its subfolders. And that only took us about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. That only took us about 10 minutes. Set up your folders, create, even if they're just placeholder documents, create the sub document. And if you have an extra 10 minutes, literally go in here, create a bulleted outline. Boom, create a bulleted outline. Stop it. And type the steps for your follow-up system or for your lead system. Katie Yates shared her proprietary lead system on how she collects leads yesterday. How do you actually set appointments? We're going to get to that in a second. How do you deal with offer rejected and review the rejected offers and improve your system from there? How do you review the accomplished offers and what are some of the follow-ups there? Each of those should have a training document titled OO and basically what to do next so that you know, and when you change that system, you change the document. We'll stop there real quick and move on to the next thing, and that is setting appointments. Again, pause this video, share it with somebody later, rewind it, whatever it is you need to do to be sure that you're giving people the help they need when it comes to, or you're giving your delegees, your employees, the help they need, the direction they need. So let's talk about the unsales process real quick. So as promised, in my coaching and training, I have what I call the unsales process. And this is the process by which to make it much easier for you to actually engage in your meeting, be confident, and set that appointment in a way that's not stressful for you. It's not awkward and salesy and slimy to them, but it actually enriches the relationship. So the first thing I want to actually talk about is this is a document from one of our workshops for unsales, the Spark Unsales, how to sell without selling, learn about your clients and increase revenue. We could talk about this later. There's a lot going on here, but let's jump ahead with beginning with the end in mind. The end in mind is that you've filtered out clients. You know that this person is a qualified lead and you're willing to work with them and they're willing to work with you. So beginning with the end in mind, I then want to actually talk about how a meeting goes, and then we'll back into how to set the appointment. This is a single graphic I just want to point out to you to be a visual reminder. Let me actually get rid of my caption here so it's hidden. This is your sales appointment, 75% them, 25% you. Hear me on this. If you have a 20-minute meeting, you should get them to talk about themselves for 15 minutes. And you should only talk about yourself for 5 minutes. If you have an hour-long meeting, you should get them to talk about themselves for 45 minutes, and you should give yourself no more than 15 minutes to talk about yourself. So what do you do during that time? You become a master of asking questions and the Ford method of questions asking. Ford is family, occupation, recreation, dream. You discover who they are, what they do, what's their pain. Can you actually solve it? How have others in your industry served or disserved them in the past? What's been their experience with people in your industry? How do others in their industry talk about people in your industry? Talk about where their family's from. Do they love what they do? What they do for fun on the weekends with their kids or with their family? What do they really aspire to? They might be doing this particular business, but what's their dream? And invariably, towards the end of the meeting, no matter what, towards the end of the meeting, they always go, oh, I've been talking about myself this whole time. Tell me about you. Now, you've only got, in a 20-minute meeting, you've only got 5 minutes. In a 45-minute meeting, you've only got about 15 minutes. And here's the thing. You don't answer the question. What do I do? Where am I from? What's my family all about? Because you probably have a lot less time, you actually say back to them what you think you heard. Well, John, I think I heard you say this, and it sounds like you're from here. But then regarding your business, I also think I heard you say that your industry views my industry like X, Y, and Z, and that you've had a lot of pain. Your industry has had a lot of pain with my industry doing 1, 2, and 3. Well, what we do is, and then I follow the Simon Sinek method. So I'm in this zone of 25 minutes, and then I follow the Simon Sinek method. Why, how, and what? Well, why we exist is to ignite lives of explosive significance. What we do is spark your vision, ignite your success, explode your significance, and radiate purpose. I have their attention, and that has happened in under 45 seconds. They're like, wait, what? What I do, John, is how we do that, how we accomplish that is through one-on-one coaching, books, training, and materials, a free Facebook group, custom and personalized accountability coaching, and twice-a-year workshops. Now, based on that, where do you kind of fit in all of that? And they might go, oh, I might join your Facebook group. Great. And I invite them to the Facebook group. Or they might go, well, I'd love to hear more about coaching and training. As it comes to websites, I say, hey, we ignite lives of explosive significance. We do that by making affordable, custom, professional websites for less, guided through a clear process. They go, oh my gosh, tell me about that. And so we then get into a little bit of what we do and how we solve it for them. But then they ask about pricing and what we could do for them. I don't tell them pricing or quote them at all. If they ask, what could you do for me or how could we work together? I don't do any of that. What I say is, hey, John, I tell you what, we are running a little bit out of time and I've got to get to my next commitment. But I tell you what, if I could follow up with you and solve the problems you mentioned, and I itemize the problems they mentioned. Oh, people in your industry charge too much. People in your industry are hard to get a hold of. People in your industry hold my website hostage. I tell them, hey, John Smith, listen, we're running out of time and I really got to get to my next commitment. So I really wanted to get to know you and your industry, but I'll tell you what, if I could be affordable, be easy to reach, and don't hold your website hostage, would that be worth you looking at a little bit of our information? Yes, it would. There's no pressure. I'm not hard closing them. I get a commitment to follow up with a pitch. And I pitch that by email or fax. I shake their hand and leave, and I do not pitch. Never do it. So I really recommend you follow this process of unsales. Because if you can follow this process, you won't be viewed as salesy, and you'll actually, this is how the meeting goes. You'll be more comfortable because you know that you're not building up. You know that you're not building up to hard close them. You're literally just getting to know more about them. And in the 5 minutes or 10 minutes you have left together, you simply say back to them some of the things you heard and thank them for it. And then, as they ask more about what you do, well, this is why we exist, and this is kind of how we do, and this is kind of what we do. Do not close. They'll say, well, what could you guys do for us? And you say, well, I didn't really come here for that. I did want to learn more about your industry, but I tell you what, if I could follow up with you and solve this, this, and this for you, would that be worth looking at something? You've unsold them. So then you follow up and move their lead in the lead folder. From comms to then you send them info, and now they're in info sent. So if this is what an appointment goes like, then how do you set the appointment? So in short, you've gotten a lead in your leads column and you're ready to actually start setting appointments or delegate your appointment setting. You take the lead, you call the person, and I want you to first get this mindset right. This is your mindset. I'm entering your industry, and I would love to hear about your past experiences with people in my industry. I would love to connect, get to know you, hear more about what you do, but really learn what people in my industry have done well and what they've done poorly with people in your industry. Do you hear what I'm saying? And make it about this. So remember how the sales appointment went. You committed to not closing them. You're committed to not closing them, to building the relationship first. So the mindset is, I'm entering your industry and I'd love to hear about your past experiences with people in my industry. And then all you do is you take the lead and you then call them. Hey, Stacy, we met at that networking event last week. Listen, you said some things that really interested me. Listen, I'm entering your industry and I would love to hear about your past experiences with people in my industry. Could we actually do coffee and hear more about just connecting more with you and what you do, but also hear about some of your past experiences? Would that be worth your time? Or would that be worth 5 minutes of your time? That phrase, would that be worth 5 minutes of your time? You could use it sometimes. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes that does feel salesy. So maybe nix that. Maybe say, listen, we met last week. I'm entering your industry. I'd love to hear more about your experiences with people in my industry. Could I get a half an hour of your time next week? Could I buy you coffee and hear about some of those experiences? They'll say, sure. Here's how you close the appointment. And people miss this all the time. Would earlier or later in the week, always give them two options. Would earlier or later in the week work best for you? They'll tell you earlier or later. Would afternoon or morning work best? They'll tell you afternoon or morning. Would 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. work best for you? If you can ask those questions, they'll answer one of those two options. They won't feel cornered. They'll feel led. And you're making a promise that, don't worry, I'm going to lead you through this process. I'm not going to close you. I'm asking you for information on how I could be better. And I'm guiding you through this process. So that's it. That is literally how you set appointments. And when I first started this business, I was literally setting 4 and 5 appointments a day. And I would still be doing that if I wasn't consumed with admin and hiring right now, where I was just filling up my schedule. Hey, I met you here. I'd love to follow up with a few minutes of your time and hear more about your business, and fill up your schedule and kind of bookend them, and then know that your sales appointment is really an unsales appointment. Keep it about learning about them, and then they'll inevitably ask, oh my gosh, I've been talking this whole time. Tell me about you and what you do. And then you actually don't answer that, what we do. What you answer is why we exist. We exist to ignite lives of explosive significance. In Jessica Ojeda's example, we exist to bring the code of healing, bring healing code to someone's mind and body. We exist to bring healing into your life. To the landscaper, we exist to give you an affordable cut consistently every time, and we show up on time every week, or some mission that you're on. And say, I didn't really want to get into necessarily my services. I really didn't come to pitch you. But I tell you what, if I could actually come up with a solution on how to solve this, and that for you that I heard you talk about during our conversation, would that be worth just looking at some of our information? Yeah. Hey, man, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the relationship. If nothing comes of this, that's fantastic. I just appreciate your time, but I'll follow up with an email and move forward. Does that make sense? Does this process of unsales seem approachable? Listen, I know that this is some fuddy-duddy stuff, man. I get it. I know that this is tactical and pragmatic, and you got places to be. Play this video back, and I think you're going to get a lot of meat, almost too much meat for the morning show. And don't worry, to my regulars, we'll get back to the normal show, but I wanted to deliver on my promise of really getting to how to build these systems. So, Katie, I hope this is useful to you. Team and regulars, I hope this has been useful to you. I'm going to jam right now, have coffee with my lovely wife. We're going to finish this series. And it might be tooth pulling for some of you guys, but you have got to know how to build systems. Yes, and it works. Boom. Thank you so much, man. So yes, thank you for stopping by. I hope you have a killer day. And remember, let's shake off some of the practice. You got to get to these practices during admin time, but shake this off. You're about to start your day. Go out there and make it a killer day. Remember the mission, igniting lives of explosive significance, but remember to start with your own. Have a fantastic